Thank you. Now, good evening, everyone. My name is Bridget Spain. I'm the minister here at the Unitarian Church. And it's lovely to once again welcome our neighbours from across the green to this sacred place. Welcome to those sitting in the pews in the church, and welcome to the people joining us via the web camera. Remember that together, just for this next while, we make up one community. As we come together and remember colleagues, retired friends who have died during the past year. We begin with our opening words. We bid you welcome who come with weary spirit seeking rest, who come with sorrow in your heart, who come hurt and grieving. We bid you welcome who come with loss in your life. May you find in this gathering peace for your soul. May the God who is love renew your spirit. In this sacred place, may courage and hope heal your heart. And as we approach the Christmas season, may peace fill your soul. Our chalice lighting. As we light our chalice, we say, life is a gift for which we are grateful. We light our chalice in memory of loved ones who have died. We give thanks for the gift they brought to our lives. And we remind ourselves that not to have known and loved these people would have been an even greater loss. We begin with readings, and our first reader this afternoon is Rachel.
Accepting our grief. As the stages of grief pass through the heart like electric shocks, painful and powerful, the person who was alive and loved among us is transformed into someone loved and yet among us in a different way. It is such a mystery that every human culture has made up amazing stories to explain and contain it. And yet it remains a mystery, inspiring terror and wonder. Death is an inescapable mystery that transforms everything we do and everything we believe. The mystery of death is woven into the fabric of life. We gently, quietly tear up at funerals and then go to somewhere to be alone and cry out our private sorrow. Our sorrow which is not really private at all. It is the other secret we all share. Everyone is touched by sorrow and grief. It is our grieving that begins to clear out the heart and allows in a reality of loss. It allows the heart to heal and let life return. A new and different life, but a real one. At some point, ready or not, we each have a standing invitation that we return and once again embrace the new life we have. If we are wise and brave enough to accept this new life, we become more fully alive at that moment. We don't cling feverishly to life, but we cherish the lives of all the people around us because we appreciate the beauty, the value, and the wonder of each life.
This is where we remember colleagues and former colleagues who have died during the year. And when you talk about 6 colleagues, 6 former colleagues, we're going to hear about them so that they become alive in our memory. And our first person that we're remembering is Nicola Donahue, who died just last month. And John is going to read a tribute to her.
This is a tribute to our colleague and friend Nicola Donoghue from the Customer Service Centre and the International Protection Office in the Department of Justice. It was an honour for the Customer Service Centre to be asked to write this tribute for our friend and colleague Nicola Donoghue. Nicola first started working in the Customer Service Centre of the OCallaghan in May 2019. She stood out to everybody because of her beautiful smile and her welcoming nature. As she settled into the office, she'd be the first person to welcome any new person coming into the unit and was happy to fill them in on the goings on of the building. She had a heart of gold and always looked out for the person who needed support or just an ear to listen to them. In our position dealing with vulnerable people on a day-to-day basis, Nicola was a champion that would go above and beyond to help that person. She was a fierce advocate of vulnerable women and children, and as she would say, it used to break her heart dealing with their problems every day. But she always was that person to help those people. And to me, this is a great testament to who she was in her life. Nicola spoke highly of her family and how her parents and sister Angel, who had been a rock for her in her life, and how they continuously helped and supported her. She spoke about her beautiful child Kai, who she was immensely proud of, and always had a smile when speaking about him. Nicola will always be remembered in the IPO as a girl with a beautiful smile and a joke to tell, but most of all, she will never be forgotten by those of us who are fortunate enough to have known her, and we will miss our friend. Thank you.
Laura died in June this year, and Brian is going to speak about her.
On the 5th of June 2022, Laura Liston, probation officer, tragically died. Laura had only just commenced her maternity leave and was very much looking forward to motherhood. Having worked in the probation service for over 5 years, Laura was known as a kind, thoughtful and talented officer. Who was a friend to many of her probation service colleagues. Laura commenced her career as a probation officer in March 2017, initially working in Dublin in the Haymarket office with the community service team. Laura demonstrated passion and drive for her work and was missed by many when she subsequently took up a post on our young person's probation team in Limerick in 2018. In June 2019, Laura moved role and joined the Limerick prison probation team. Laura thrived in this role and was recognised by her colleagues in both the probation service and prison service as making a valuable contribution to her work with offenders. More recently, Laura was an active member of the Working with Women group within the service. Laura is survived by her husband Fergal, baby son Shay, parents John and Fiona, sisters Jennifer and Sarah, and brother John Robert, grandmother May, and her wider family and friends. Laura is very much missed by all her friends and colleagues of the probation service.
Colette died in September, and her tribute will be read by Valerie.
We first met Colette when she joined the Customer Service Centre of the International Protection Office in October 2018. She was warm and friendly and immediately connected with her colleagues. Colette was extremely helpful in nature and always did her very best in her dealings with both colleagues and applicants. She was a kind and generous person. Her best trait was probably her fantastic sense of humour and her ability to see the funny side of everything, and was especially able to laugh at herself. She liked to talk and had an impressive ability to discuss almost any subject. Colette was a family person, and she often spoke about them to her work friends. She lost her beloved father in 2019. It was very difficult for her. She often spoke about her husband Kieran, her daughter Ruby and her son Ben, as well as her brother Noel. And it was clear to see what a wonderful relationship she had with her family. Unfortunately, Colette's time in the IPO was limited, but she will be fondly remembered by the friends she made during her time there. She was a unique person, and it was wonderful to have crossed paths with her, even though her time with us was much too short. Rest in peace, Colette. I will miss you.
Katrina Rainford retired on the 6th of July, and she died on the 25th of July. And here to speak about her is Ollie.
My friend Katrina Rainford made a deep impression on many people's lives. Those of us who worked closely with Katrina and spent a lot of time with her will never forget the precious memories shared. Katrina enjoyed a full and rewarding career in the civil service, which included periods in the Forensic Science Laboratory, the Irish Embassy in Abuja in Nigeria, Security Division, and lastly in the Visa Division of Immigration Service Delivery. She made friends everywhere she worked. Katrina represented all that is best in civil servants. She took her work very seriously, always striving to deliver high-quality results, while at the same time demonstrating a sense of humour and a keen compassion for other people. She was somebody you could always rely on, who you felt cared about you and about doing things the right way. Those of us who got to know Katrina outside of work knew someone who was warm and fun-loving, someone who was a generous host and a great pal. Katrina really loved her time abroad in Nigeria, working in the visa office of the Irish Embassy there and becoming a popular member of the small Irish community. She also enjoyed spending time every year at her apartment in Spain. Katrina spent a lot of time in Graiguenamanagh in County Kilkenny, and she actually planned to move there when she retired. Sadly, she never got that chance to do so because of her illness. Even as Katrina became ill and was undergoing treatment, she always maintained her easy sense of humour and her dedication to her work. She was taken far too soon, and we will be missed so deeply by all of us who knew her.
Andrew will now read a tribute for Kevin O'Sullivan. Kevin was retired and he died in March this year.
The sad news of Kevin's sudden and untimely death quenched a bright light in the lives of all those who knew him. We mourn a much-loved widely respected colleague, friend, and thoroughly decent individual. Life was for living with Kevin. He embraced its opportunities and he made the best of whatever came his way. He didn't do half measures. He gave his all, whether in work, where his sense of fair play and humanity imbued his many accomplishments, in his home life, which he shared with his devoted Emily, and of course, his support for the Irish soccer team was perhaps his greatest challenge of all. The many dismal days of failure and defeat in far-flung places even taxed Kevin's legendary expeditionary skills, but were quickly forgotten in the euphoria of the rare victories. Either way, his irrepressible optimism and good humour were as much on display as his well-worn Irish jersey. Kevin's approach to work was characterised by his uncompromising belief in the value of public service and in his public service values. Every day, he lived those values of professionalism, integrity, fairness, humanity, loyalty to his country and his colleagues. He was a generous spirit. He always sought to find the good in others, to encourage and to look out for those who needed help. He gave his time willingly to help colleagues. His office door was always open, and once you got used to the documents which seemed to consume every available space, it was a place of freewheeling dialogue across a vast spectrum of ideas and discussion. To all colleagues, he was always respectful and collaborative, but never afraid to challenge, debate, or offer an alternative view. In a very real way, Kevin spoke truth to power. If he believed a policy was wrong or misguided, he said so. But simply disagreeing was not his way. Instinctively, he knew his role was not just to identify problems, but in equal measure to offer his solutions. In this respect, he excelled at judging the key issues when dissecting complex judicial decisions. But he wasn't a man to stand on pomp or ceremony, and he was particularly adept at identifying absurdities. This was entirely in keeping with his love of the work of Joyce and all that entailed. At a time when the art of writing is sadly fading, he wrote elegantly and with great purpose and clarity. A well-turned phrase gave him great pleasure, and his occasional contributions to Sunday Miscellany, as well as his script writing, gave him a broader platform for that interest. His rich, mellifluous voice was made for radio. Kevin lived a good life in service to the state. His warm, witty and engaging personality made him a great companion and a valued friend. And there are many people in this country whose lives and circumstances were directly and profoundly transformed by Kevin's unwavering dedication to doing the right thing. And we remember him with fondness as he rests easy in his bonny dune.
My apologies for the noise. It's the RCSI demolishing the place. I thought the darkness would drive them away. Our last contribution is from Marion, and it's to speak about Tom Quigley, who died in May of this year.
It feels rather strange, and for those of us who had the privilege of knowing him, it also feels more than a little sad that we find ourselves this evening referring to Tom Quigley as the late Tom Quigley, but so it is. Tom was a man of many parts and many tales. We don't have the time to go through them all now, but there is always time to mention a few. His great friend Tim Dalton tells of his first meeting with Tom over 40 years ago, when following his success in some interdepartmental competition or other, he had the misfortune to find himself playing HEO to Tim's APO in the then called Law Reform Division of the Department of Justice. What exactly they were doing there cannot now be recalled, but Tim considers it reasonably safe to now confess that it involved very little in the way of discussion about the law and even less about the requirements for its reform. Tom was a proud Tipperary man who never allowed the glories of his native county, particularly its glories on the hurling field, to drift very far from his thoughts. But early in life, he had the good sense to marry Eileen, the love of his life. Eileen, a Kerry woman, had schooled Tom in the triumphs of Kerry football, which, combined with his knowledge of Tipperary hurling, provided rich opportunities for Tom and Tim to engage in animated discussion during those brief office moments when they managed to set aside their quills and quell their almost irrepressible zeal for law reform. A man of many parts, Tom was also a keen cyclist. He cycled everywhere at all hours of the day and night, sometimes risking life and limb to set off, heavily fortified, to cycle home to Santry. A lesser known fact about Tom is that he was a great and enthusiastic dancer. And then there was Tom, the trade unionist, or what we call in the cloistered environs of the civil service, the association man. Tom carried his deep interest and outstanding contribution to association work long into his retirement years, as did another of our very valued and greatly missed colleagues, the late Paddy Terrier. At this time of the year, when we tell young children that the imaginary line we've just seen crossing the sky is a distant line of reindeer being driven demented by a bearded inebriate, we know that we are not being straight with them. We know that what we are in fact seeing is a heavenly picket line outside the Pearly Gates, organised by Paddy Terrier and Tom Quigley in protest about the deplorable conditions applying in the Great Blue yonder. Levity aside, Tom was always a very generous, dependable, good-humoured and hard-working colleague. He was a man of duty, but one who always did his duty without ever shrouding his inherent sense of decency and humanity. People who found themselves at a spot of bother knew that they could approach Tom, and they often did so, in the knowledge that if there were circumstances that merited mitigation, Tom would always help to have those circumstances fully taken on board. This evening, somewhere in what the poet called the regions of air, Tom is probably standing beside what is hopefully a brand new bike, looking down on us and wishing that he could party with us all later. Sadly, we will no longer be able to party, but Tom will neither will we forget him.
And now, accompanied by music and noise, we're going to light some candles in memory of those 6 people. So to light the candles, can we have John, Laura, Valerie, Ollie, Andrew and Marion? had put together a piece about bereavement and the process of bereavement, but I know when I'm beaten, so I'm just going to have the final blessing for us today. We remember those we have loved who have died with an Irish blessing. We remember those 6 people and say, God has called them from this life. May soul friends greet and guide them. May the angels lead their spirit. May the gatherer of souls see them safely home. And from this time forth until we meet again, may God hold us all in the palm of his hand. Amen. Don't tell me they're going to stop now. Music.